right 4, 75, left 1, 50. Right 1, left 6, tightens 2, late apex, 50.
Welcome back to Flat Irons Tuning. We have Tasso from OTC Racing in the shop here for this episode of Shop Chronicles. Now Tasso, last time you were in the shop, we were working on your rear diff, which is now in the car. But actually, one of the things we want to talk about, we've got kind of a big announcement to make. People that have watched your car run before might notice that there's a new livery on the car. The sticker package has changed, and that is because Flat Irons Tuning is now the title sponsor of OTC Racing. So we're very excited to be able to announce that with you, and hope you guys like the car. The Schwabs are still there, but it's just we've been able to make a change and change the level of support, hopefully to help you out, be a little bit more competitive this year.
Yeah, definitely, really appreciate it. It's been kind of a change for us this year to try and. We've always tried to handle ourselves professionally, but to really kind of step it up a little bit, and so part of that was we just needed a little bit more support. So. Fortunately, thank you to you, John, and to Flat Irons, and to Big Scott upstairs.
And there's more than just the Flat Irons Tuning support. You've got a couple other new sponsors to the car as well.
Yep, yeah. So we got Roger Clark increased their support this year, and we've got some cool stuff that hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about here a little bit from those guys. Alltech came on board this year,
which is huge.
We did some cool stuff with Zach at ZF Design and the transmission this year. Motul every year they kind of. They take care of us, right?
Yeah.
So we got a new oil this year. We're chasing some oil pressure numbers. 300V still.
The Motul 300V.
But in 10W60 this year from the 15W50 we ran last year. So my buddy Joseph at Roos Concepts.
Yeah. All right.
He is a longtime friend of mine from back in the bike racing days, who's now running a CNC. On the car we have the blow-off valve block-off plate. There's a Roos Concepts design and product.
And a Tasso concept.
And a Tasso concept, yeah. And everyone told me I shouldn't do it, but the car sounds great without a blow-off valve, and that's a good enough reason to do it. But also some motor mounts and stuff. Working on positioning the motor in a more advantageous location, solid mounts. We went to a solid transmission mount this year, which is, I think I'm feeling kind of a direct improvement in the feedback from that. I always gotta love on Harvey at the Discreet, right?
Discreet, yep.
So, yeah. And Nigel, you know me racing if we're doing the livery. Damn it.
Oh.
And there's too many folks. There's a lot of folks. Every sticker on the car is someone that has helped us out. There's no stickers on here that get a free ride. So, we appreciate every single one of these guys, but we don't have an hour to go through everyone that's helped make this possible for us.
Well, it's very cool to see, what you've been able to put together, and hopefully what all of these new opportunities are going to, allow you to do in the 2022 season. And already, now as we're recording this, one race is down. Lands in, the next race is 2 weeks away, week and a half away.
Yeah, week and a half.
So we're going to have some pretty good feedback as far as what some of the changes are and what some of the effects are pretty quickly. Let's maybe just do a rundown of the high notes of the build of the car as it sits at this point.
So it is a San Remo Red 2004 WRX. Before I got the car, it was a competition car. It had won SCCA Rallycross Prepared All-Wheel Drive National Championship before I got it. I got the car, rallycrossed it, had a good time, hill climbed it, loved it, did a couple stage rallies, decided hill climb is affordable, amazing, fast, fun, and laid back, so focused on that. So it is, though, an FIA legal cage. It is legal for stage rally. It is still Rally America logbooked, so Rally America is now gone, right? I'd have to probably update to an ARA logbook, but it is, other than a couple things that have changed for hill climbing, it is essentially was an open class Rally America logbook rally car.
Okay.
The cage was built by Rally Build, another group of folks. core to the rally community. You can't talk about rally in this area without mentioning Rally Build. So thank you to those guys and Scott McCarty, who actually did the welding on the cage. It is as light as I can get the chassis.
It was on the scales.
It was on the scales. It weighed 2660 with a normal race start fluid load in the car, but no drivers.
And we think that our scales might be a little bit light, but the number on the scale is 2660.
Yeah, I'll take that friendly number any day for bragging purposes. Thank
Yeah.
you. So
How about the engine? Like what is the current iteration of the engine and the turbo?
So the engine was a used block that I got that was already bored to 100 mil and it had some forged pistons in it. So it was already punched out to 100. We honed the cylinder walls again just to try and get the new rings something to eat to seat, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a little loose. It blows by a ton. It's got a lot of forged parts in it. It's got a lot of Roger Clark goodies in it. A lot of that just comes down to airflow stuff, right? Motors being the air pump. I've done a lot of porting in the heads. We got a set of cams in there. So like a Brian Crower 272 because it was like actually really close to like a Kelford rally cam. So
Well, it's worth mentioning which cylinder heads are on the car.
D25 cylinder heads.
So we've got basically 2.5 liter short block, 2.5 liter
Right.
head. So it's basically the 2.5 liter conversion for the 2 liter WRX.
But with forged stuff in it, it's all been dynamically balanced. The engine machine work was done by Performance Porting, who also helps us out up in Port Lupton. Roger
Okay.
Clark pan, group in pan,
Oh, yeah.
their sump, and then their pickup, the castellated,
Yep.
I forget what the official name is for it. You
Yeah.
guys probably know.
Anti-surge.
Anti-surge, yeah. So, and it's been great. And then my buddy at Mad Cheshire Racing, Michael Miller, helped me put the motor together.
Nice.
And so it's sort of a home built. He's a professional mechanic, another rally guy himself too.
Well,
So-
he's been helping out for a good while.
and he has been, yeah. Helping me to the point like, hey, you can do the next one, right? Here are the tools, and here's the knowledge
Right.
to do it. And now I think
Right.
probably the next one I'll try and do it on my own. But up to this point, Michael Miller is a wizard with motors and doing them. So Roger Clark head gaskets, seal up. Even we had some rough muting surfaces because you used everything, right? But
Right.
motor kicks ass. The turbo is a Turbo Dynamics LM450 SR60
Twin scroll.
twin scroll.
That's the key detail.
Right, yeah, so it has Spec C manifolds on it, so factory twin scroll manifolds.
Yeah.
Factory heat shields off to save weight, header wrap on them into that turbo, and then kind of my custom Frankenstein exhaust after that point. It is straight piped and then even a megaphone tip just because it sounds amazing.
Yeah. What are you running
Sounds
for fuel?
For fuel, like literally today, I just switched to E98.
E98.
I have been running E85 and as high ethanol content as I can get. I know there's all sorts of talk about, you don't get much knock prevention above E70. I get it. I need the cooling. Motor makes a lot of heat, especially running the way we do and revving to 7,500, 7,400 RPM. We run a stock radiator, an OEM plastic in-tank radiator. To save weight up front because radiator hangs way off the front of the car, and also I can get this radiator at most Napas across the country or whatever your chosen dealership. We're going to E98 now for even more cooling.
Well, and I would guess since you're sponsored by Haltech that maybe you're running a standalone ECU.
Yep. Yeah. So we're on an Elite 2000 with their wideband and with their dash in the car as well, and it was a breeze to switch. Actually, when I switched the fuel over just to see how it would go and like pre-prime stuff, I just fired the car up, and immediately the ECU was like, "Oh no, I got you. Like, I got this. Like it's gonna get retuned. Don't worry." And everyone should get their car retuned.
Right.
They change fuels like that. It's not a flex fuel car. I just I stick to one fuel.
How about drivetrain? So maybe let's start with brakes. And obviously you're running rally tires, rally wheels and tires, so 15-inch wheels and tires.
So we're on a 15-inch wheel, a 15x7 with a 205/65 tire on there. We run a pretty soft compound because hill climbs are pretty short format racing. We're on a Subaru 4-pot, 2-pot, so the WRX 0607 stuff.
Which is a really common brake set because it fits underneath the rally wheel.
Yeah, it fits nice. It fits under 15. We can't run the big brake stuff.
Yeah.
And it is functionally similar to like what the old group N braking stuff was.
Yeah.
The group N stuff was made by someone else and all sorts of intricacies of actual motorsports stuff. But for us, they've been great.
Let's talk because we talked about the rear diff, so people know what that is. I want to get your feedback from it, but let's give the overview of the drivetrain.
Yep, so it's
a
a 03 STI drivetrain fundamentally. It was a pallet from eBay that we picked up that actually had, because they all advertise low miles, this one actually had low miles, which was lucky. So the transmission's all been gone through by Zach at CF Design. We have their 4.3 final drive.
And so this would be the short JDM ratios.
So we already had the JDM 5th and 6th are the difference, right? So in the US cars, I think 5th is overdriven already.
5th and 6th are overdriven.
Both overdriven. Yeah. So I think 5th and this one is 1-to-1 or direct, and then 6th is like 0.8 something.
Just barely.
Yeah. So
which for a rally car is kind of perfect.
It's great. We actually got to 6th gear on course the other day. Which is really handy to have all the gears to play with there. Everything in there was treated with ZF special process, like a surface treatment, for lower friction, more hardness, stuff like that. Billet shift works, a lot of fun stuff.
Let's talk differentials, because we know you made a change to the rear. What have you got going on front, middle, and rear?
So the easy one is the center. It's a map DC/CD controlled
with the stock DCC.
Stock DCC. Front rear diffs are both plated Cusco units. So the front were one-way, settle on two-way rear.
Two-way rear. So that's, we were talking about that, we switched it back and forth, and then there was a back, and then there was an extra fourth. So, but where it landed is a two-way rear diff.
Yeah.
So that's one of the other big drivetrain changes that you made. It's because that is, the rear diff has a lot of control of the feel of the car. What have you noticed now that you've actually been on stage with the car with that diff?
Consistency, I think, and we'll talk about this again. I think with the suspension when we get to that, which is also a Cusco product.
Yeah.
Especially open diffs or Torsen style diffs, like helicals and stuff like that. Depending on what wheel's getting traction, what your throttle load is, stuff like that. Like the torque is vectoring around all over the place.
Yep.
Not in your control, right?
And with those other types of differentials, when one wheel starts to slip, which is kind of par for the course for a rally car, when you're in a slide and the wheels are just
they're all sliding most of the time, right?
Not really an open diff or torque biasing diff, which is a gear type diff, don't really do a lot at that point. So that's where you need the clutch type diff.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So they're consistent.
And so we've kind of talked around it, and people that have been following our Instagram know that we are testing Cusco's 03G or their was it Sport 3G gravel suspension on this car with a full setup, basically with springs, top hats, and all that sort of thing for your car. So what is your initial impression of that suspension now that you've actually raced on it?
So I mean, the first thing I'll say even goes back to before a driving impression of it, was just speaking with Cusco and working with you on setup stuff. I've never had the opportunity before to get that direct opportunity for input and also for feedback with an engineer. So being able to talk about where the weight should be in the car, what the setup should be, ride height, what I should expect, what they're thinking when they suggest a thing, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That part's been amazing.
We have learned a lot with the suspension. Cusco gave us basically a starting point. We installed it. We made one initial change to the front spring, which is, it's a small detail, it's just in spring length, but to get it set up more to what your liking was. But what I know a lot of people are curious about is, your feelings in driving the car. Like, how does it compare to what you were running before, which was basically a modified Bilstein strut, and what are some of those initial impressions? Yeah,
so I think I'm gonna go ahead and just tear the fourth wall down on this one and talk about like the reality of the testing process.
Yeah.
It just kind of felt good.
Yeah. So the most interesting thing was, the initial feedback was you were not happy with it, but for an interesting reason, which was that the car would not break loose.
Yeah.
You were having a hard time getting the car to break loose to initiate the slide.
Right. With the first set of springs, which really was only a change to the front springs, the original front springs on the car, I felt like I had to drive the car extremely aggressively.
Well, and so in talking through with Sam from Cusco, the interesting point that he made is, which once he said it, it was pretty clear, but just at the time it was kind of a point of frustration, which is what that meant is that the car was a lot more stable, almost too stable, because you're having to be really aggressive with the brake and throttle input to get the car to break loose.
Right, and that's the reality of kind of any setup thing, right? Is everything exists on a spectrum.
Right.
Nothing exists independently, and for everything that could be a preference or a performance advantage, it's just slid one way on a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
So the car was tight. Another word for it was hard to get to break loose.
Right. What the interesting thing that came out of it is just the perspective. Like we went into it kind of thinking, well, this is actually a negative, but realized that this actually might be a positive and indicate that we're actually getting closer to where we want to be, because we want to be faster.
Mm-hmm.
And so if the suspension is more stable and it is harder to break loose, the hope was that, well, okay, we make a couple little tweaks, and that's where the front spring change came in, and we made some ride height changes.
Yeah.
And then the hope was, okay, well, if the car is more stable and more controllable, then you can actually carry more speed through the corners.
Mm-hmm.
And if the car's more predictable, that's where the time starts to fall.
Yeah. Again, fourth walling a little bit.
Yeah.
And opening up the secrets here. Cusco essentially said, well, why don't you try not driving like a ninny? Because we know Tommy Mackinnon, and he says it's great. So
Right.
all right, sorry.
Well,
I'll speed up a bit. So, but it was really good. We did actually make a little spring change, and we kind of tweaked a bit here and there. No big changes though so far. Essentially, the spring change was to get the front end down a little bit, just to get that balance a little more right. We looked at actual weights and front and rear bias, and spoke with engineers, made a spring change, went to a race, and won our class, right?
Yeah.
So what else can you say about us that is a suspension, right?
well, you did make an interesting comment about the surface. So this was at the hill climb is in Rangeley. It's not called the Rangeley Hill Climb.
Canyon Pintado is the historical district that it's in or something like that, but it's near Rangeley, Colorado.
But it was an interesting surface. So talk a little bit about that.
It's hard to tell out there. There's a lot of oil field traffic out there, a lot of UTV traffic out there, in the whole OHV community. So you're never really sure what the surface is going to be. In this case, the road was in great shape, smoothness wise. It was, graded, ditch to ditch. It was smooth, a couple little washboards, but like smooth surface, but loose. There was a lot of loose over hard, a lot of marbly rocks on top and stuff. So like initially the car felt really vague. It felt like it was just skating around. And like, our initial run, we even kind of bounced off a wall a little bit and checked the durability of the suspension. And it was fine.
Passed.
So yeah, passed that. We made no changes at that point. Of course, came around a little bit. It stayed loose over the weekend, but the line got swept as more cars drove it. And it even started to rut just a little bit, which is good because you can use those ruts.
So the loose stuff on the top of the road got kind of pushed off. So there's some tire grooves
car tires,
where you have a little bit more traction. Yeah.
Yep. So I still actually ended up making no changes because I was able to drive the car like real hard, real aggressive, and you can get after it.
And by the end, you had done pretty well. Like qualifying, where did you qualify?
First in class, second overall.
Yeah.
Finished first in class, third overall.
So the initial feeling is generally positive about the Cusco suspension, and definitely like the drivetrain setup and everything about the car.
Yeah, more than just generally positive. I'd say it's like immediately comfortable.
If there was an issue with it, you probably would have noticed more than it did. Like if there's nothing that stands out, if it's just doing work in the background, that's
right. If I could quickly get comfortable with it, quickly be successful with it, then that's a great baseline to start from.
I think you said when you broke the axle, you were probably going to put in a faster time than your one log time on the game.
Who knows, right? It's racing. But there's a speed trap down low on the course. First run through the speed trap, they clocked us at 99 miles an hour. Second run through the run where we broke, we hit 108. So we were up 9 miles an hour on one straightaway of the course.
And even then, the one time that you did log, how did it compare with your personal best?
I matched my personal best on the slower one, so I was likely to improve quite a bit on a surface that was definitely slower from when I did the personal best on that track. So
there's a lot of positives.
Definitely improvement. The car feels great. Like I was saying, it feels comfortable, but also feels fast. It pulls, it handles, it brakes. It's good. With Land's End a week and a half away.
So this is the next race.
So yeah, Land's End Hill Climb out Grand Junction. I'm coming into it, I don't want to say confident, but like excited. Hopefully go out there, and Land's End's a great event. It's the third oldest motorsport event in the country, behind the Indy 500 in Pikes Peak.
Yes.
As far as I know, the longest gravel hill climb left around.
Longest distance?
Distance.
How long is the run at Land's End?
I think it's like 5 and some miles. So we're It's been a long time. I think we're aiming for the low 5 minutes for a time.
Okay.
So average speed around 60 miles an hour makes sense with hairpins and stuff.
Yeah. As good as the car was, and with all the initial feedback you have from running the car, the idea is just go to the Land's End, get another race under your belt, feel it out, maybe make some small adjustments, and just see how the suspension does.
Nothing big yet. It's going to be a much different surface. The surface there, blue grooves up, scrubs completely.
Yeah.
You get tire squeal even on the dirt there sometimes. It ruts up though. It's more rough than Rangeley is, just because it's so hard. The bumps are bumps and not just little dust piles kind of thing, you know. So I had thought about potentially, like for example, softening the rear rebound a little bit as a tweak at Rangeley if I had more time there to keep doing runs and stuff. We may actually leave it because the surface is harder, so maybe it'll be more rewarding to have or more successful to have kind of a stiffer, damper profile. So.
And this is one of the cool things with hill climbs versus like a stage run, is you get to run the same course multiple times. So you can actually make these adjustments, try them on the same day, slightly different conditions, but kind of back to back to actually see, like, are these changes making a difference? Are these changes pushing me in the direction I want to go? Versus, just having to go and try and feel that out in a pit stop or, running different stages and that sort of thing.
Right, we get the chance to really kind of try and optimize the run, right?
Yep.
So we're chasing perfection, not just pretty good, not just fastest. We're chasing our perfect run kind of thing, which is similar to time attack in that way.
Right. Well, Tasso, thanks for bringing the car in. Thanks for taking the time to make the video and talk to us about it. Thanks for testing the suspension, being open to do that, because I know you kind of had a known quantity.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of replacing the known quantity with a little bit of variable, but very glad that it's working out as well as it is so far. And all the changes, drivetrain wise and everything to the car seems to be working out. So things are looking good for the season, and excited to see how it develops from here.
Yeah, really. Again, I appreciate the opportunity, whether it's suspension or just the support in general. Like I was saying, it takes this entire crew to make anything possible.
Yep.
Right. So
absolutely.
So I thank you to everybody.
Yeah, glad to be a part of it. Well, thanks very much to you guys for listening. Thanks for your support for us and for Tasso. If you haven't been over there, check out Tasso OTC Racing. Sorry, it's OTC Racing on Instagram, the Facebook, even on YouTube, because you can actually go over there and watch, his run from the Rangeley Hill Climb just a couple weeks ago. And you can stay tuned for all the latest information on how the Land's End Hill Climb unfolds for him as well. So make sure you drop him a like and subscribe. Drop a like and subscribe for us. And until next time, as always, stay tuned for Flattering Student.